The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their special chairs, each designed for their unique bodies. Some breathed methane, others needed superheated rocks to sit on, and a few floated in energy fields. But they all shared one thing: fear. Tejo stepped up to the speaking platform. His blue skin gleamed under the council lights as he activated the holographic display. Images of beautiful blue and green planets appeared, spinning slowly in the air. To most species, these worlds looked like paradise. To everyone in the council hall, they looked like death. "Honored council members," Tejo began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "I stand before you today to present our latest findings on ocean worlds. The results are disturbing." A murmur ran through the crowd. The crystalline hegemony's representative, a being made of living crystal, chimed softly in distress. The massive Titan clan delegate shifted his boulder-like body with worry. Tejo touched a control, and the image changed to show a sleek ship disappearing beneath dark waves. 3 months ago, the Vorthak sent their best research vessel to Kepler 442c. The ship carried 200 of their finest scientists and warriors. They were equipped with the most advanced technology in their fleet. The image showed the ship's final transmission, crew members screaming as water poured into their vessel. Then, nothing but silence. The entire expedition vanished without a trace, Tejo continued. This makes it the 47th major loss to ocean worlds in the past year alone. The pattern is always the same. Ships approach these water-covered planets and something goes wrong. The crews either die instantly or disappear completely. In the human section of the council, Minsu sat quietly. He was a small man compared to most aliens, wearing the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. His dark eyes watched the presentation carefully, but he said nothing. Tejo brought up more images. Each one showed the same story: ships destroyed, crews lost, entire expeditions wiped out. The Plasma Collective had lost energy beings who simply dissolved when they touched liquid water. The Silicon Masters had seen their rock-based scouts crumble into sand. Even the mighty void swimmers who could survive in the vacuum of space had been found floating dead around ocean planets. "The evidence is clear," Tejo said, his voice growing more serious. "Ocean worlds are death traps. Whatever exists on these planets actively hunts and destroys any life that approaches them. We believe these worlds may contain hostile entities beyond our understanding." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Different species spoke in clicks, roars, musical tones, and electronic pulses. Fear filled the air like a bad smell. The crystalline representative rang like a bell as it spoke. "My people have lost 12 exploration fleets to these cursed worlds. Each time our ship simply stopped. No distress calls, no explanations. They just vanished beneath the waves." A Titan clan warrior, whose body looked like a walking mountain, rumbled his agreement. "The drowning worlds have claimed too many. Good warriors, we who can move planets with our minds cannot even approach these ocean spheres safely." More stories poured out. The hive minds had lost entire collective consciousnesses. The Time Walkers had seen their past-seeing abilities fail. Completely near water worlds, species after species shared tales of loss, fear, and failure. Through it all, Minsu remained silent. He took notes on a simple tablet, his expression calm and thoughtful. Other representatives occasionally glanced at him, wondering why the human seemed so unconcerned. Finally, the Council Prime called for order. The ancient being, whose species had been traveling space for millions of years, spoke in a voice like distant thunder. "The evidence is overwhelming," the Prime declared. "Ocean worlds represent a clear and present danger to all galactic life. These planets have claimed thousands of our people and hundreds of our finest vessels. We cannot continue to lose lives. to these death worlds. Tejo nodded and activated a new display. This one showed a galactic map with red zones marked around every known ocean planet. I propose we classify all ocean worlds as absolute quarantine zones. No ship should approach within 10 planetary diameters. Any vessel that violates this restriction will be considered lost. The proposal made sense to everyone. After so many disasters, what else could they do? The vote began, with species after species agreeing to the total ban. The crystalline hegemony voted yes immediately. The Titan clans supported the measure with thunderous approval. Even the usually cautious Silicon Masters agreed. When the vote reached the human delegation, all eyes turned to Minsu. He stood slowly, straightening his uniform. Around him, aliens waited to hear Earth's position. The human government abstains from this vote, Minsu said simply. Shocked silence filled the chamber. The crystalline representative chimed in confusion. Abstains? But surely you agree that these worlds are too dangerous? Minsu smiled slightly. Humans prefer to examine all evidence before making permanent decisions. We respect the Council's choice but will not participate in this vote. Several aliens began talking at once, their voices mixing into confused noise. The Council Prime raised a hand for silence. The human abstention is noted, the Prime announced. With 46 votes in favor and 1 abstention, the motion passes. All ocean worlds are now classified as absolute quarantine zones. As the Council session ended, representatives began filing out of the chamber. Many stopped to speak with colleagues about the new restrictions. The crystalline beings chimed sadly about worlds they would never see. The Titan clans spoke of profits lost from potential mining operations. Tejo gathered his data displays, feeling satisfied with the day's work. The galaxy would be safer now that these death worlds were off limits. No more expeditions would be lost to whatever horrors lurked beneath those alien seas. Minsu waited until most of the chamber was empty before leaving. As he walked toward the exit, he activated a small communication device hidden in his uniform. Jiwon, this is Minsu. He spoke quietly into the device. The Council has banned all exploration of ocean worlds. You know what this means? A woman's voice answered from the device, excitement clear in her tone. It means we have the galaxy's ocean, worlds all to ourselves. How soon can we begin? Minsu glanced around to make sure no one was listening. Start preparing the expedition immediately. We'll use the Poseidon's Dream. And Jiwon, make sure the team understands. This mission stays secret until we know what we're dealing with. Understood, Jiwon replied. The crew is already excited. Some of them have been studying the ocean world data for months. If these planets are really as dangerous as the Council thinks, we'll find out why. Minsu ended the communication and walked out of the Council chamber. Behind him, cleaning robots began preparing the hall for the next session. Soon, the Great Chamber would host discussions about trade routes, mining rights, and diplomatic treaties. But nowhere in those future meetings would anyone mention ocean worlds. The galaxy had decided these planets were too dangerous to approach. Every species except one had agreed to stay away from the beautiful blue and green spheres scattered throughout space. On a distant planet called Earth, in a laboratory filled with aquatic research equipment, Jiwon smiled as she looked at star charts showing dozens of unexplored ocean worlds. While the rest of the galaxy ran from these planets in fear, humanity was about to discover that sometimes the things others fear most can become your greatest advantage. The vote was finished. The quarantine was in place, and somewhere in the depths of those forbidden ocean worlds, ancient intelligences continued their patient wait for visitors who could survive in their realm. 6 months after the Council vote, the human research ship Poseidon's Dream drifted in orbit around Nereid Prime. The planet looked exactly like what the Galactic Council feared most, an endless sphere of deep blue water with no visible land masses. Storm systems swirled across its surface like giant white flowers, blooming and dying in fast motion. Captain Dong-hyun stood on the bridge, watching the planet rotate below them. His weathered hands gripped the rail as he studied the readings on his screens. The ocean below was over 20 kilometers deep in most places, with water that seemed cleaner and more oxygen-rich than Earth's seas. "Sir, the diving team is ready for deployment," reported Lieutenant Soo-jin from her station. "Hye-jin and Kyung-ho are suited up and waiting in Bay 3. Dong-hyun nodded slowly. Every other species in the galaxy had lost ships and crews to planets like this one. The Council had declared these worlds death traps after thousands of disasters. But humans had something different, something that might change everything. "Tell them to proceed," he ordered. "But remind them to stay in constant contact. If anything goes wrong, they abort immediately." Down in the diving bay, Hye-jin checked her equipment one final time. The advanced diving suit felt familiar despite its alien technology, like a more sophisticated version of the gear she had worn during her years exploring Earth's deepest trenches. Beside her, Kyung-ho performed his own pre-dive routine with the calm precision of someone who had spent his life underwater. "Ready?" Hye-jin asked, her voice crackling through the suit's communication system. Kyung-ho gave her a thumbs up. "Born ready. Let's see what these aliens have been so afraid of." The launch pod dropped away from the ship like a metal tear falling toward the blue planet. As they entered the atmosphere, Hye-jin felt the familiar excitement that came before. Every dive into unknown waters. This time was different, though. This time, they were diving into an alien ocean that had supposedly killed everyone who tried. The pod hit the water's surface with barely a splash. Through the transparent aluminum windows, they could see the alien sea stretching endlessly in all directions. The water was incredibly clear, much clearer than anything they had seen on Earth. Strange lights flickered in the depths below like underwater stars. "Beginning descent," Kyung-ho reported to the ship above. "Water temperature is 22 degrees Celsius. Pressure normal for this depth. No immediate threats detected." They descended slowly, their pod's lights cutting through the crystal-clear water. Schools of alien fish swam past, creatures that looked like living rainbows with fins made of pure light. Kelp-like plants swayed in underwater currents, their leaves glowing softly in patterns that almost looked like writing. At 50 meters depth, something unexpected happened. The pod systems began to fail, just like what had happened to every other species' vessels. Warning lights flashed red as the engines died and the life support systems flickered. "This is it," Hye-jin said, her heart racing. "This is where everyone else died, but we're not like everyone else." Instead of panicking, both humans began their emergency procedures. They had trained for this moment, knowing that their ships might fail just like all the others. The difference was that humans could survive without ships. Hye-jin and Kyung-ho sealed their suits and opened the pod's emergency hatch. While other species would have drowned or been crushed by the alien water, the humans simply swam out into the ocean. The moment Hye-jin entered the water, she felt something incredible. The alien sea didn't feel hostile or dangerous. It felt alive and welcoming. Her human swimming instincts, developed over millions of years of evolution, worked perfectly in the dense, oxygen-rich water. She could move through it more easily than she had ever moved through Earth's oceans. Kyung-ho discovered something even more amazing. His breathing techniques, learned during years of freediving on Earth, worked incredibly well in the alien water. He could hold his breath for much longer than usual, and when he did breathe through his suit's systems, the rich oxygen content made him feel stronger and more alert. "Command, this is Hye-jin," she reported, swimming gracefully through the water. "We have abandoned the pod as planned. Both divers are healthy and mobile. The water is not hostile to humans. Repeat, the water is safe for human swimmers." Above them, Captain Dong-hyun listened to the report with amazement. For the first time in galactic history, beings had survived direct contact with an ocean world's waters. As the two humans swam deeper, they began to notice something strange. The lights they had seen from above weren't random. They were moving in patterns. Some flickered in sequences, others pulsed in rhythm, and a few seemed to respond to the humans' presence. "Do you see that?" Kyung-ho asked, pointing to a cluster of lights approaching them. The lights grew larger as they came closer, revealing themselves to be attached to massive creatures. These beings looked like whales, but they were the size of spaceships. Their skin was a deep blue-green color that seemed to shift and change like the surface of the ocean itself. Along their sides, bioluminescent patterns glowed in complex, beautiful designs. Hee-jin felt her breath catch in her throat. These creatures were clearly intelligent. She could see it in their large, knowing eyes. As they circled the two humans, they began to produce sounds, deep musical notes that seemed to vibrate through the water and into her bones. "They're trying to communicate," she whispered to Kyung-ho. "These sounds, they're like whale songs, but more complex." Kyung-ho nodded, remembering his training with Earth's marine mammals. He had spent years learning to interpret humpback whale communications. Taking a deep breath through his suit, he tried to mimic some of the simpler tones the creatures were making. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The massive beings stopped their circling and focused entirely on Kyung-ho. Their songs became more excited, more varied. One of them, larger than the others and covered in ancient-looking scars, swam directly up to the two humans. When it spoke, the voice somehow reached them clearly through the water, as if the creature could project its thoughts directly into their minds. "Swimmers from the dry realm," the ancient voice said, full of wonder and disbelief. "In all our long years, we have never encountered dry landers who could survive in our realm. We are the depth singers, guardians of this world's waters," Hye-jin found her voice, somehow knowing that her thoughts would reach the creature just as clearly. "We are humans, from a world called Earth. We came here to explore and learn. Our people have always lived near the water." The elderly depth singer, who introduced himself as Sang-woo, expressed amazement at this revelation. "Your people swim in your home waters. This is unprecedented. All other dry realm species die instantly when they touch our seas. We thought swimming was impossible for land dwellers." As more depth singers gathered around them, the humans learned the truth about ocean worlds. These planets weren't death traps. They were home to ancient, peaceful civilizations that lived entirely underwater. The depth singers and their kind had been quietly existing on hundreds of ocean worlds throughout the galaxy for millions of years. "But why do other species' ships fail when they approach?" Kyung-ho asked. Sang-woo's expression grew sad. "Because we make them fail. For eons, drylanders have come to our worlds with loud machines and harmful intentions. They pollute our waters, disturb our songs, and try to take our resources. So we developed ways to disable their vessels before they could harm us." The truth was staggering. Ocean worlds weren't dangerous. They were defended. The aquatic civilizations had been protecting themselves from what they saw as invaders. But they had never encountered a species that could actually swim and survive in their realm. "Your people," Sang-woo continued, "are the first drylanders we have met who belong in the water as well as on land. This changes everything." As Hye-jin and Kyung-ho spent more time with the depth singers, they discovered an entire underwater civilization. Cities made of living coral stretched across the ocean floor. Schools of fish moved in perfect formations, guided by the depth singers' songs. Technology existed that worked with water instead of against it, creating beautiful and efficient tools that other species had never imagined. Hours passed like minutes as the humans explored this hidden world. They learned that the depth singers could share memories through their songs, passing down millions of years of history through musical traditions. They discovered that every ocean world had its own unique aquatic civilization, each one isolated and hidden from the galaxy above. When it was finally time to return to the surface, Sang-woo made a request that would change everything. "Will you bring more of your people?" the ancient depth singer asked. "For too long, we have hidden from the dry realm. But if there are others like you who can swim in our waters, perhaps it is time to end our isolation." Hye-jin looked at Kyung-ho, both of them understanding the magnitude of what they had discovered. They weren't just the first humans to survive an ocean world. They were the first beings from the dry galaxy to make peaceful contact with the water civilizations. "We'll return," Hye-jin promised, "and we'll bring others who can swim. This is just the beginning." The news traveled through the galaxy like wildfire. Within days of Hee-jin and Kyung-ho's successful contact with the depth singers, every major species was talking about the impossible thing that humans had done. They had not only survived contact. With an ocean world, they had made friends with its inhabitants. Dr. Jae-min sat in his laboratory on Earth, surrounded by data streams coming in from dozens of sources. As humanity's leading xenobiologist, he had been tasked with understanding why humans could do what 47 other species could not. The answer, when he found it, was both simple and remarkable. "It's evolution," he explained to the packed conference room at Earth's Science Council. "Every other species in the galaxy evolved on dry land or in space. They never needed to adapt to liquid environments. But humans spent millions of years living near oceans, rivers, and lakes." He activated a holographic display showing human anatomy. "Look at our diving reflex. When we enter water, our heart rate slows and blood flow redirects to essential organs. Our lung capacity and breath control are exceptional among land mammals. Even our psychology is adapted for water. We find swimming relaxing instead of terrifying." The implications were staggering. While other species saw water as an alien, hostile environment, humans saw it as a second home. Their mammalian diving abilities, their bipedal swimming techniques, and their cultural relationship with water made them uniquely qualified to explore ocean worlds. Subin, now promoted to director of the Human Ocean Initiative, found herself overwhelmed with requests from across the galaxy. Species that had written off entire star systems as uninhabitable suddenly wanted human help exploring water worlds in their territories. The crystalline hegemony was the first to make an official request. Their representative, a being called Velthar, arrived at Earth's orbital station with an unusual proposal. "Our people have identified 43 ocean worlds in our territory," Velthar chimed, his crystal body reflecting rainbow patterns as he spoke. "We lost substantial resources trying to explore these planets before the Council's ban. If humans can safely investigate them, we would be willing to share any discoveries." Soon, representatives from other species followed. The Titan clans offered mining rights to any valuable materials found on ocean worlds. The Silicon Masters proposed joint research missions. Even the mysterious void swimmers expressed interest in learning how humans survived in liquid environments. But not everyone was happy with humanity's sudden importance. In the shadows of galactic politics, older powers watched with growing concern as humans began to change the established order. The Human Ocean Initiative moved quickly to capitalize on their advantage. Subin organized the first wave of exploration. Missions, sending teams to 12 different ocean worlds across 3 galactic sectors. Each team included experienced human divers, marine biologists, and cultural specialists trained in aquatic communication techniques. The results exceeded everyone's expectations. On Tiamat's Rest, a water world in Titan clan territory, the Human team led by Yoo-jin made contact with the Reef Builders, an aquatic civilization that had spent centuries creating underwater cities from living coral. Their biotechnology was so advanced that they could grow buildings, vehicles, and tools from modified sea life. On Leviathan's Heart, explorers found the Current Riders, a nomadic aquatic species that traveled through their planet's oceans on the backs of massive sea creatures. They had developed navigation techniques that allowed them to predict ocean currents and weather patterns with incredible accuracy. Each new contact revealed the same pattern. Ocean worlds weren't empty or dangerous. They were home to sophisticated civilizations that had been hiding from the galaxy for millennia. These aquatic species had technologies and knowledge that land-based civilizations had never imagined. Yu Jin, working with the reef builders, began developing revolutionary underwater construction techniques. Instead of fighting against water, these new methods worked with it. Buildings that could flex with ocean currents, power systems that drew energy from thermal vents, and transportation networks that followed natural water flows. It's a completely different approach to technology, Yu Jin reported during a council meeting on Earth. While we've been trying to keep water out of our machines, they've been building machines that need water to function. Some of their biotechnology could revolutionize how we think about engineering. Wu Jin, meanwhile, had become the galaxy's first specialist in aquatic diplomacy. His work establishing communication protocols between dry land species and ocean civilizations opened up possibilities that no one had previously considered. The key is understanding that aquatic species don't think in terms of ownership or territory the way we do, Wu Jin explained. They think in terms of currents, flows, and natural cycles. Once you learn to communicate in these concepts, negotiations become much more productive. The Galactic Council found itself in an unprecedented situation. In-Ho, the Council's senior observer, was assigned to monitor humanity's ocean exploration activities. His reports back to the Council grew more amazed with each passing week. The humans have established permanent settlements on 7 ocean worlds, In-Ho reported. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. Their underwater cities are actually more advanced than many of our land-based colonies. The settlements were marvels of hybrid technology. Human engineering combined with aquatic biotechnology created underwater habitats that were completely self-sustaining. Gardens of modified kelp provided food and oxygen. Schools of trained fish carried messages between different sections. Living. Coral walls regulated temperature and filtered water automatically. But perhaps most importantly, these settlements served as meeting places where dry land species could interact with aquatic civilizations for the first time. Specially designed chambers allowed air-breathing aliens to meet with water-breathing natives, with humans serving as translators and cultural bridges. The changes rippled through galactic society in unexpected ways. Trade routes expanded to include ocean worlds, opening up new markets for both aquatic and terrestrial goods. Scientific discoveries flowed in both directions as species shared knowledge that had been isolated for millions of years. The crystalline hegemony learned new crystal-growing techniques from the reef builders. The silicon masters discovered mineral extraction methods that didn't damage ocean ecosystems. Even the Plasma Collective found ways to create energy fields that could function underwater. However, the rapid changes also created tension. Some of the galaxy's older powers began to worry about humans becoming too influential. Chang Min, an admiral in the hegemony's military, expressed concerns that became increasingly common among traditional galactic leaders. "These humans are changing everything too quickly," Chang Min complained during a closed session of military commanders. "For thousands of years, we've maintained stability by avoiding ocean worlds. Now they're turning these forbidden zones into centers of power and influence." His words reflected a growing unease among some species. The galactic order had been built on the assumption that certain worlds were off-limits. Ocean planets had been written off as uninhabitable, their resources and inhabitants ignored in galactic calculations. Now humans were proving that assumption wrong, and it threatened to upset carefully maintained power balances. The concerns grew stronger when Subin announced the formation of the Ocean World Alliance, a loose confederation of aquatic civilizations, working together with human guidance. For the first time in galactic history, the water worlds were organizing themselves into a political entity. This alliance represents over 200 ocean worlds, Subin announced at the Galactic Council. They've agreed to share resources, knowledge, and defensive capabilities. Any aggression against one member world will be considered aggression against all. The announcement sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Suddenly, worlds that had been considered empty space on galactic maps were revealing themselves as populated, advanced, and unified. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and humans were at the center of the change. As the third month of ocean exploration ended, Inho prepared his most important report yet for the Galactic Council. His findings would force the galaxy to confront a new reality, one where the death worlds they had feared were actually thriving centers of civilization, and where humanity had become the key to unlocking secrets that had been hidden beneath alien waves for millions of years. The ocean awakening had begun, and there would be no going back to the old ways of thinking about water worlds. The galaxy was about to discover that they had been living in only half of their universe, while the other half waited patiently beneath the waves. So Young had always been good at finding things that others wanted to stay hidden. As a human intelligence officer working for the Galactic Cooperation Bureau, she specialized in uncovering information that could help maintain peace between species. But what she discovered about ocean worlds would shake her faith in everything she thought she knew about galactic politics. It started with a simple question that had been bothering her for weeks. If aquatic civilizations were so advanced and peaceful, why had every other species failed so completely when approaching ocean worlds? The pattern was too consistent, too total. Every ship that approached water planets experienced the exact same type of system failures, regardless of their technology or species origin. Working late in her office aboard the orbital station above Earth, So Young began digging deeper into historical records. She accessed databases from dozens of species, looking for any information about early encounters with ocean worlds that might have been overlooked. What she found in the oldest archives made her blood run cold. 3,000 years ago, before the current Galactic Council existed, there had been successful contact with ocean worlds. Several species had established trade relationships with aquatic civilizations. The records showed thriving partnerships between land and water-based cultures, with technology exchanges that had benefited everyone involved. Then, suddenly, all contact had stopped. Every record from that period had been marked as classified or historically unreliable. The official histories claimed that early ocean exploration had always ended in disaster, but the original documents told a completely different story. So Young's investigation led her to discover references to something called the Dry Covenant, an organization that apparently existed during the transition period when contact with ocean worlds ended. The more she searched, the more convinced she became that this wasn't ancient history. The Dry Covenant was still active. Her breakthrough came when she cross-referenced galactic communication records with the timing of failed ocean expeditions. Every time a species prepared to explore water worlds, specific coded transmissions appeared in their networks just before their ships experienced failures. The transmissions always came from the same source, a hidden network that had been operating for thousands of years. The truth hit her like a cold wave. Ocean worlds weren't naturally dangerous to other species. They were being made dangerous by someone who wanted to keep land-based and water-based civilizations separated. Before she could investigate further, So Young's office door chimed. Teho, the xenobiologist who had presented the ocean world dangers to the Galactic Council, entered with an expression she had never seen before. Gone was his usual scientific confidence. Instead, he looked frightened and desperate. "So Young," he said, quickly checking to make sure no one was listening. "I know what you've been researching. We need to talk, but not here. Meet me at the old observation deck in 1 hour. Come alone and make sure you're not followed." An hour later, So Young found Tae-ho standing by the massive windows that looked out at the stars. His blue skin seemed paler than usual, and his hands shook slightly as he spoke. "Everything I told the council about ocean worlds was a lie," he admitted without looking at her. "I've been feeding false information about water planets for over a decade. The data about ship failures, the reports of crew deaths, the classification of ocean worlds as death traps, all of it was fabricated." So Young felt her stomach drop. "Why? Why would you do that?" Tae-ho finally turned to face her, and she could see genuine regret in his eyes. "Because I was recruited by the Dry Covenant when I was just a young scientist. They convinced me that contact between land and water civilizations would lead to chaos and war. They said they were protecting galactic stability by keeping the two types of worlds separate." He explained how the Covenant had operated for millennia. They were a shadow organization made up of influential members from various land-based species who believed that aquatic civilizations posed a threat to their way of life. The Covenant had developed technology that could disable ships approaching ocean worlds, making it appear that the planets themselves were hostile. "The ship failures are real," Tae-ho continued, "but they're caused by hidden Covenant stations positioned around ocean worlds. These stations emit electromagnetic pulses that shut down any approaching vessels. The crews don't usually die. They're rescued by Covenant agents, and their memories are altered to believe they encountered natural disasters." So Young realized the scope of what she was hearing. "You're talking about a conspiracy that spans thousands of years and multiple species. How is that even possible?" "The Covenant recruits from the highest levels of government and military in every major species," Tae-ho explained. "They have members in the Galactic Council, in major corporations, in military commands. They've been systematically suppressing any information about aquatic civilizations and maintaining the illusion that ocean worlds are uninhabitable." The conversation was interrupted by So Young's communication device beeping with an urgent message. Min-soo, the human ambassador, was requesting immediate assistance. His message was brief but alarming. "Assassination attempt failed. Covenant knows about our investigation. Need secure location now." So Young and Tae-ho rushed to meet Min-soo at a safe house in the station's civilian sector. They found the ambassador bandaged and shaken but alive. His story confirmed So Young's worst fears about how far the Covenant would go to protect their secrets. "They tried to make it look like an accident," Min-soo explained. "A maintenance robot malfunctioned in my quarters, releasing toxic gas. If I hadn't been wearing my emergency breathing mask during a communications drill, I would have died in my sleep." The attack on Min-soo proved that the Covenant was willing to eliminate anyone who threatened their control over ocean world policy. But it also meant that humanity's ocean exploration activities had attracted their attention at the highest levels. Working together, the three investigators began piecing together the full scope of the Covenant's operations. Tae-ho provided access to Covenant communication networks, while So Young used her intelligence training to decode their operational procedures. Min-soo contributed his diplomatic knowledge to identify which galactic leaders might be Covenant members. Their investigation led them to a shocking discovery on Tiamat's Rest, one of the ocean worlds where humans had established contact with aquatic civilizations. Hidden beneath the planet's polar ice cap, they found a massive Covenant facility that had been jamming communications from the ocean world for over 2,000 years. Ye-jin, now leading the human research team on Tiamat's Rest, agreed to help investigate the facility. Using her swimming abilities, she accessed underwater sections that the Covenant had never expected anyone to reach. What she found there changed everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The facility contained records of every aquatic civilization the Covenant had encountered. Database after database showed the locations of hundreds of ocean worlds, detailed information about their inhabitants, and most shocking of all, thousands of intercepted communications that water-based civilizations had been trying to send to the galactic community for millennia. "They've been trying to make contact," Hyojin reported, her voice filled with awe as she transmitted data from the underwater facility. "Ocean civilizations across the galaxy have been sending diplomatic messages, trade proposals, scientific discoveries. Everything we would expect from advanced cultures trying to join galactic society. The Covenant has been intercepting and suppressing all of it." When Hyojin and her team disabled the jamming equipment, the results were immediate and overwhelming. Suddenly, the galactic communication networks were flooded with signals from ocean worlds that had been trying to make contact for thousands of years. Hundreds of previously silent planets revealed themselves as populated worlds with thriving civilizations. The Depth Singer Elder Sang-woo, contacted through the newly opened communication channels, confirmed the investigators' worst fears. "The Dry Realm people have been keeping us hidden," he told them sadly. "We have been sending messages of friendship and cooperation for countless cycles, but they never reached their intended recipients. We believed that the land dwellers simply did not want to speak with us." As the scale of the Covenant's deception became clear, So Young realized that the conspiracy went even deeper than they had imagined. Ocean worlds didn't just harbor advanced civilizations, they harbored the galaxy's oldest and most sophisticated cultures. The aquatic species had been developing technology and knowledge for millions of years longer than most land-based species. The Covenant hadn't just been hiding these civilizations, they had been preventing the galaxy from accessing scientific discoveries and technological innovations that could have advanced every species by thousands of years. Medical techniques that could extend lifespans, energy systems that worked with natural forces instead of against them, space travel methods that required no fuel, all of these innovations had been sitting in ocean world databases while the Covenant maintained their wall of silence. But the worst revelation came when Tae-ho accessed the Covenant's deepest archives. The galaxy was in chaos. Within weeks of the Covenant's communication jamming network being disabled, signals from hundreds of ocean worlds flooded the galactic networks. Ancient civilizations that had been trying to make contact for millennia suddenly found their voices, and their messages changed everything. Admiral Dong-hyun stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned Deep Current, humanity's first vessel designed specifically for ocean world operations. Around him, his mixed crew of humans and aquatic species worked together with an efficiency that would have been impossible just months earlier. Through the viewports, he could see the blue-green surface of Leviathan's heart, where the largest gathering of ocean world representatives in galactic history was taking place. The revelations about the Dry Covenant had split galactic civilization down the middle. Some species, horrified by the thousands of years of deception, immediately called for justice and reform. Others, particularly those whose leaders had been Covenant members, refused to accept the evidence and declared the whole thing a human fabrication designed to gain power. Chang Min, the hegemony admiral who had grown increasingly hostile to human ocean activities, had become the unofficial leader of Covenant loyalists. His forces controlled 3 major star systems and had declared the ocean world communications to be terrorist propaganda designed to destabilize galactic order. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Wu Jin from his station, "we're receiving confirmation that Covenant forces are moving toward the Nereid system. Intelligence estimates at least 40 warships, including 3 dreadnoughts." Dong-hyun nodded grimly. The war that everyone had feared was finally beginning. But this wouldn't be fought like traditional galactic conflicts. The ocean worlds had advantages that land-based military strategists had never encountered. "Signal. The Depth Singer fleets," he ordered. "Tell them we're ready to coordinate the defense." Below the surface of Leviathan's heart, an extraordinary meeting was taking place. Ji-won, now serving as humanity's chief liaison to aquatic civilizations, floated in a specially designed breathing apparatus alongside representatives from over 50 ocean worlds. The gathering included the Depth Singers from Nereid Prime, the Reef Builders from Tiamat's Rest, the current riders from half a dozen different systems and dozens of other aquatic species that the galaxy was meeting for the first time. Elder, Sang-Woo's voice resonated through the water as he addressed the assembly. For too long we have hidden while the Dry Realm peoples fought their wars above our heads, but now they threaten to destroy the peace we have built with our swimming. Friends, the time for hiding is over. The aquatic civilizations had been sharing information during the months since contact was re-established, and what they had revealed was staggering. Their biotechnology was thousands of years ahead of anything land-based species had developed. They could grow ships from modified sea creatures, create weapons that worked with water instead of against it, and coordinate across vast distances using techniques that the Covenant had never imagined. "Show them what the current riders have developed," Jiwan suggested, speaking through the water communication system that human technicians had helped modify for multi-species use. The current rider representative, a graceful being with flowing fins and bioluminescent patches along her sides, activated a demonstration. Suddenly, the water around the assembly began to move in complex patterns. Currents formed spirals, waves created geometric shapes, and the temperature shifted in precise zones. "We can control water on a planetary scale," the current rider explained. "Our people have learned to direct ocean currents, create or dispel storms, and even affect the gravity of water itself. If the Dry Realm warriors bring their ships near our worlds, they will find that space itself becomes hostile to them." Su Bin, coordinating the defense efforts from a command center that was half underwater and half above the surface, watched the tactical displays with amazement. The ocean civilizations weren't just willing to defend themselves, they were offering capabilities that could revolutionize space warfare entirely. "The reef builders have grown a fleet of bioships," she reported to the Joint Command Staff. "These vessels are living creatures that can operate in both water and space. They heal themselves when damaged, reproduce to create more ships, and can survive in environments that would destroy traditional spacecraft." Meanwhile, In-Ho, the former Covenant observer who had become humanity's most valuable intelligence asset, was coordinating a different kind of warfare. The revelation of the Covenant's conspiracy had created splits within every major galactic government. Some species were experiencing civil wars as Covenant members tried to maintain control while reformist factions demanded change. The crystalline hegemony is fragmenting, In-Ho reported during a secure communication with human leadership. About half of their crystal clusters have declared independence from Covenant control. The Silicon Masters are experiencing similar splits. Even the Titan clans have rebels who want to join the Ocean Alliance. The conflict that erupted wasn't the traditional space battle that galactic military leaders had prepared for. Instead, it became something entirely new, a war fought simultaneously in space, on planetary surfaces, and in the depths of alien oceans. The first major engagement took place around Nereid Prime, where Chang Min led a Covenant fleet in an attempt to restore order to what he called the source of the rebellion. His 40 warships approached the ocean world with confidence, expecting to face primitive aquatic defenses. Instead, they encountered something that no military academy had ever taught them to fight. Ye-Jin, now commanding a joint human-aquatic response team, coordinated the defense from within Nereid Prime's oceans. "Activate the current barrier," she ordered, speaking through biocommunication devices that the Depth Singers had shared with human forces. Around the planet, massive aquatic creatures began to sing in harmony. Their combined voices created vibrations that traveled through the water and into space itself. The approaching Covenant fleet suddenly found their ships being pulled toward the planet by artificial gravity currents that defied every known law of physics. "What's happening to our ships?" Chang Min demanded as his flagship began to spiral out of control. His science officer, struggling with readings that made no sense, reported the impossible. "Sir, it appears that space itself is behaving like water around the planet. Our navigation systems are interpreting gravitational fields as ocean currents." The Depth Singers had done something that traditional physics said was impossible. They had transformed the space around their planet into an environment that followed aquatic rules instead of vacuum rules. Covenant ships designed for traditional space combat found themselves trying to swim through gravity fields that moved like water. As Chang Min's fleet struggled with this impossible environment, the bioships of the reef builders emerged from the planet's oceans. These living vessels moved through the space water with the grace of dolphins, their organic hulls adapting instantly to the changing conditions. The battle lasted only hours. Covenant forces, unable to adapt to an environment that their training and technology couldn't handle, found themselves captured by bioships that simply grew restraining tendrils around their vessels. Not a single shot was fired, but the entire fleet was neutralized. The victory at Nereid Prime triggered a cascade of similar defeats for Covenant forces across the galaxy. On every ocean world they tried to attack. They encountered defenses that their traditional military thinking couldn't counter. Storms that moved spacecraft instead of destroying them. Gravity fields that behaved like water. Living ships that could repair damage faster than weapons could inflict it. But the most devastating weapon the Ocean Alliance deployed wasn't military at all. It was knowledge. Kyung Ho, working with a team of human and aquatic scientists, began broadcasting scientific discoveries that the Covenant had suppressed for thousands of years. Medical techniques that could extend lifespans by centuries. Energy systems that could provide unlimited clean power. Agricultural methods that could end hunger on any planet. "This is what they've been hiding from us," Kyung Ho announced in a galactic broadcast that reached every inhabited system. "While we've been struggling with resource shortages and technological limitations, ocean worlds have had solutions to our problems for millennia. The Covenant kept us primitive to maintain their power. The effect was immediate and devastating to Covenant credibility. Populations across the galaxy began demanding access to aquatic technology. Governments that had supported the Covenant found themselves facing revolutions as their people learned how much progress had been suppressed. The final confrontation came not in space, but in the depths of an ocean. Chang Min, his fleet captured and his political support collapsed, made a desperate personal journey to Nereid Prime to confront what he saw as the source of the galaxy's chaos. Using a modified diving suit, he descended into the planet's oceans to find the human who had started it all. He found Hye Jin in the Depth Singer city of Deep Harmony, swimming freely among the massive aquatic beings as if she had been born there. "You've destroyed everything," Chang Min said, his voice distorted by the water in his breathing apparatus.